Hello, what's this? That's right. Oh well, wrong if you didn't know. It's the country of Sweden, home to many global sensations like amazing furniture with horribly overcomplicated instructions, hit video games and their studios, as well as a descendant of the Vikings and glorious kings of the pre-industrial era. This is a series aimed at going back in time and figuring out the answer to the question, how the duck did we get here? To start us off, about 20,000 years ago, the world was a bit cold, especially up here, where it looked something like this. Not a place you'd like to live, I hope. On the bright side, things are getting warmer, and give it another 10,000 years or so, and now there's actual grass. Would you look at that? As soon as these wet, luscious lands became available, humans couldn't wait to settle. Hunter-gatherers followed up the receding ice sheets up north, and early North Germanic cultures sprung up and were replaced every 1,000 years by the next one. Among them were the Maglemosian culture, the Fosna-Hesensbacher culture, the Nöstved culture, the Liehult culture, the Kangemos culture, the Ertebulle culture, the Funnelbeaker culture, and the Pitted Ware culture. Archaeologists really love their interesting culture names that I definitely did not pronounce correctly. It'd be hard to go into detail about all these cultures, but to drastically oversimplify it, people fished, hunted, and then farmed and made some cool stuff like, look at all of these. These hunter-gatherer Stone Age cultures eventually gave way for the Nordic Bronze Age, with the great civilization rising around the shores of Scandinavia, as well as the inland parts of southern Sweden and Denmark. This has been shown through great wares, which were imported to Scandinavia in exchange for amber, a very valued resource actually existing naturally in Scandinavia in comparison to the bronze and gold that were also found here at that time. It also gave rise to a great period of petroglyphs, yeah, kinda like that Egyptian thing, the hieroglyphs, but more Stone Age and less furries. These mainly describe rituals and ceremonies of the time, but of course the weirdos in Bohuslän also had to make some interesting imagery. Stone dick pics. Interesting. And thus, the Iron Age in Scandinavia was born. A bit behind the rest of the world by a few hundred years, but we don't have to care about that. What they did have to care about was the fact that the entire continent had been set on fire, more specifically, the flames of war. This had destroyed much of the old wealth generated by trade, including the entire civilization living off of it, and the southern Celtic tribes infighting was a large point to blame. So, with new iron tools in hand, they rightfully took out their revenge. The following centuries were mostly filled with war, more war, some technological advancements, meeting and being documented by other civilizations, and then some more war. The Germanic tribes fought south, conquering what is today Germany. Though don't get the idea that they were some unified great nation doing this, as this was more a general path that many tribes took, whilst pillaging their way south trying to find new land to settle, driving out or assimilating into the Celts that already lived there. A few hundred years after the Germanic migration south, the rise of the Roman Empire led to more trade and secure economic development, as well as establishments of record with the people such as the Goths. No, the late Roman kind, not the modern kind. This means we now have some actual text to go by, and the accuracy of who we are talking about goes up a lot. We know Swedish tribes moved across all of Europe, the most famous ones being the aforementioned Goths, who ended up all the way in Spain and Italy to some extent. So where are we now? Oh yes, Scandinavia, iron, pillaging south, Goths. This is where the history of Sweden actually starts to materialize into recognizable civilizations, duchies, kingdoms, and later to become empire. But to get there, we have a major era ahead of us, a mist that would cover all of Northern Europe with a new dawn of terror, where scribes would describe the atrocities committed along the shores of the French, German, and British nations. The time of the Swedish Viking Age approaches, where the Svea tribes reunited Sweden and brought plunder and devastation to those whose shores their longships reached. I'll see you all on Friday.